I think that medications are not the first step by far when it comes to helping these squirrely kids. I'm thinking of the 5-year-old to the 8-year-old that really can't sit still, that's impulsive, that's all over the place. Like, a lot of that is very typical for kids their age, and we need to help them. We need to focus on school strategies that help them feel like they can focus and then also fidget and move and get those wiggles out and gain self-confidence and not just kind of constantly feel like they're being corrected. We talk about diet, we talk about sleep, we talk about movement, we talk about more responsibilities at home so they feel that importance that helps them to realize, like, I have a job, I have a role, people are counting on me. Increasing movement when it comes to before, during, and after demands or requests or homework or those sorts of things. We're getting movement in there, we're allowing them to move their bodies. Now, there are often times where we say, okay, we've done those different things, we've ticked all those boxes. We want to add medication. And I always reassure parents that this is not a failure of all those other things. We are trying to stack a bunch of different ways to help support your child on top of each other so that they can thrive. Now, sometimes we can get there with school strategies, with visual schedules, with diet, with sleep, with those sorts of things. But oftentimes, once we've stacked those up, we move from a place of struggling to a place of surviving. And then in some cases, medication will help them move from a place of surviving to a place of thriving. And so we always try and focus on how can we get to that place where we're doing well. We're using our skills. We're able to show off our brain and the way that our body works and the way that we're able to think and all those sorts of things. That's a place of thriving. And so medications often come up as a way to help move from struggling to surviving to thriving. Now, when it comes to those, I'm going to talk first in this video specifically about non-stimulants, and the non-stimulants in particular that I'm going to focus on are called alpha-agonists. So I'm thinking of clonidine and I'm thinking of guanfacine. I typically use guanfacine, although clonidine is a fine option too. I usually use guanfacine as my go-to non-stimulant option. Now, there might be some different reasons to consider using a non-stimulant first, and it can kind of depend a lot on the child, but if parents are wanting to avoid stimulants to start, which is reasonable, there's things with stimulants that you want to avoid, certainly like appetite suppression, or jumping to them first and foremost and really not building all of those other skills up around there. Like, yes, the Adderall, the Focalin, the Ritalin, all the different stimulants will help them to sit still and focus during class and not draw as much attention to themselves or get in as much trouble. But they do need to learn all those skills around that, despite the fact that they can sit still and you get fewer notes home from the teacher when they're on those stimulants. So guanfacine is an alpha agonist. Clonidine is an alpha agonist, and it works on the nervous system specifically to calm the effect of adrenaline, which is also known as epinephrine, which is involved in the fight or flight response in children and in adults. Now, I won't here get into all the super deep neurotransmitter stuff. I do like talking about that. But what we see when we've added guanfacine, an alpha agonist, is often there's a little bit of time between the thought and the action. So it helps especially, I find, when it comes to impulsivity, where we have a thought and we make an action, there's a little bit more space there, which can be really helpful for those kids that have a thought that might be a good thought, it might be an unhelpful thought at the moment, it might be an unhelpful thought all the time, but we put a little bit of space between the thought and the action. It also helps to ease regulation. It helps them to be more calm during the day and then also with sleep. One of the side effects of these medicines is sleepiness, and so we often start and give the medicine at night because a lot of these squirrely kids, they're really wired, their adrenaline system, their fight or flight system is really tuned up. It's hard for them to calm down, to rest their brains, rest their bodies, and using alpha agonists is a way to help them to calm down and get a good restorative night's sleep, which helps stack all those other things that we talked about earlier on top of each other. Sometimes children are in this constantly fight or flight mode, and it's hard to focus because they're constantly shifting their attention because they're tuned up to all of the things around them. And sometimes that can be anxiety, but sometimes it can just be, I have a really high adrenaline system, and so I'm constantly watching for incoming threats, and I'm thinking about different things, and I have a thought and I have to act on it because it might be the right thought or it might be the right thing to do. Guanfacine can help calm all of that down. And so we shift that fight or flight down a few notches so that we can focus and that we can have incoming things that are not always a threat or something that needs to be acted on. So when I think about, okay, who would guanfacine in particular be a good choice for? Number one, it's great for those kids that are always on, like the nervous system is just revved up. They're always ready to go at full speed. It might be the kids that are big emotions, so they explode really fastly, and guanfacine adds a little bit of breaks between something didn't go my way, I exploded. And in that period of time is often the chance for them to think and reflect, is this a big deal or is this something that I can live with? That buffer time in there can really help. It also helps with children that are more hyperactive than inattentive, so the ones that are the squirrels that are all over the place, rather than the ones that are just spacey and dreamy and off on their own planets. It also helps with kids that need a calmer baseline. It might be the right choice if they have struggled with stimulants in the past, or they don't, your parents are reluctant to jump into stimulants. They want to try something else first. And the nice thing about guanfacine, unlike stimulants, is you avoid that appetite suppression. Appetite suppression is a big thing with stimulants. Usually we're able to work around that, making sure they have a good breakfast and a good dinner. But sometimes those stimulants can make it difficult to keep gaining weight and all of the things that go along with energy reserves, continued growth and development, everything along those lines. So guanfacine can be a good choice in that case. Now, like I said, your first step is not medications. Your first step is doing a bunch of stacking of school strategies, of home strategies, of executive functioning skills, of diet, of nutrition, of sleep, of movement, of changing your expectations and getting all those things in line. We're going to do all of that first. And then we're going to see how far that gets us from a place of struggling to a place of surviving to a place of thriving. And sometimes it takes different things, and it can change based on the season, the time of life, what else is going on, other demands, all of that. But hopefully that helps explain when I would pick guanfacine.